Hello guys, welcome to T10 Studio. Today we will talk about top 10 issues facing our youth today. So let's get started. Now that we are well into the new millennium, society has begun to acknowledge serious concern with the issue that youngsters need to affect today. Some issues have always been there but are now coming to the eyes of the general public to seek out solution. Other issues are new trend as a society beings to adapt to a faster pace of life. Number 1. Single parent household. The problems being receptions. Since the 1950s, the amount of single parent home has consistently increased to the purpose of catastrophe. Today, 14 million single parents are liable for 28 million children. Raising a toddler is difficult enough during a two-parent home, especially in a tough economical condition. The situation is even drier when there is just one parent. Economically, one parent is probably going to bring less income home. This equates to fewer opportunities for such a vital necessities as education. Trying to form ends meet also take time that spent far away from children who need a parent guiding and influence. Absent a parent's diligent guidance, children become subjects to higher dropout rates, higher risk of dangerous sexual behavior and pregnancies, higher chances of drugs and alcohol abuse, etc. Number 2. Drug-alcohol abuse. There was a time in a cinematic history where virtually every actor/actress was portrayed on screen with a cigarette in hand. Smoking it had been implied was cool. As a result, everyone was doing it, including kids. Well, as awareness to the danger of smoking increased, cool image of smoking disappeared. Unfortunately, an equivalent can't be said about drugs and alcohol. These vices are staple in everyday media. Simply, drinking and using drug is shown as being cool. The numbers bears the story. 21% of school seniors says that they'd get high and 41% of an equivalent group report drinking alcohol. Our youngsters are actually traveling in an intoxicated daze. Immature behavior is then amplified thanks to being under the influence. Drunk driving, poor grades and attendance, antisocial and violent behavior, and therefore the list goes on. Number 3. Growing up too fast. There was a time when kids enjoyed being kids. Today, even at the earliest of ages, children are partaking in an adult activities with serious consequences. Almost like what we see with alcohol and medicines, sex may be very fashionable and portrayed material. The film, TV, the web, initially everywhere a child turns, he or she is bombarded with the sex suggestions. In fact, there are entire TV series marketed on to kids handling sex. The Secret Lives of an American Teenager and a Teenage Mom to Call To. Music may be a culprit also. Songs have always had a sexual endurance, but a minimum of a back within the day. You had to be sufficiently old to them. Today, it's all about how low are you able to go, and baby let me sex you up. Kids are having sex as early as 10 and 11, with the teen pregnancies increasingly on the increase. The concept of childhood is literally being exhausted. Number 4. Violence in schools. A child's education is the foundation from which he or she is going to be ready to go forth out into the planet and build a life. Schools play a serious role during the endeavor, and thus it's reasonable to accept that these places of learning will be a safe havens for the youngsters while they are preparing for the adulthood. Unfortunately, this is often not always the case. In many instances, especially in low-income urban settings, schools are often combat zone. We aren't talking about minor bullying, but rather a serious violence. Consider that within the last decade, 284 kids were murdered thanks to school violence. These were shootings, stabbing, fighting, and suicides. Growing up is hard enough without having to be worried about being killed while getting the math class. Number 5. Materialism. We live in a society that promotes materialism, then we perpetuate this particular madly by installing bad habits into our youngsters. We teach our youngsters that the measure of success and happiness in life is what proportion stuff you have got. Kids naturally want things, especially if their friends have something similar. Unfortunately, there seems to be a little hesitant on accompanying guidance as we set about this. Initially, we offer our youngsters with whatever they need that within our financial ability to try to do so. The concept of earning what you get or the thoughts that something you don't need seems to propose being lost and discarded. Is there really any wonder why the typical adult is $15,000 in a debit at any given time? We have a mentality of getting what we will like, and once we want it, that has been ingrained in us since childhood. Unfortunately, the result that there are devastating consequences for such a continued behavior later in a life. Number 6. Obesity. Our kids are fat and getting fatter. Recent number shows that 20% of young children are obese. Not chubby, obese. Video games, TV, the web, and the nutriment are partly responsible. Kids are spending longer sitting ahead of a TV, computer screen than running around outside. The sedentary lifestyle has consequences. Socially, it's no secret that overweight kids are getting to be subject to ridicule from their peers. It's sad, but nevertheless true. This will end in such an issue as low self-esteem, depression, and etc. Then there are the health concerns, high vital signs, diabetes, and other maladies that relate to the obesity. Physiologically and physically, obesity is a problem which will be resolved with an easy increase in activity and awareness. Number 7. Education disparity. Education is vital. Few people will dispute this well-regarded fact. An honest education in a comparison with a nasty one will provide a toddler with an increased chances of taking advantage of opportunity to achieve success in life. Unfortunately, some people have it better than others. This is often not a problem of only one school being better than another school. Rather, we are talking about whole classes of young children being denied a correct education. which will prepare them to compete during a job market with their peers and have an equivalent access to American dreams. Number 8. Shifting economy. America wanted to sustain itself with making its own products through manufacturing, then turning around and selling those products. The economy is shifting to more of an industry versus a producing industry, so as to chop costs and keeping product prices down. Companies are forced to outsource manufacturing to other countries. Other countries can produce product at much lower labor cost. Some companies have even begun to outsource call center jobs to stay labor costs down. Not only is America now having a lower paying service jobs and the typical blue collar job with a sustainable income, but our economy is now a worldwide economy. Number 9. Poverty. The federal poverty line is $22,050 for a family of 4. This equates of 21% of all children. 15 million children are considered in poverty. Just to hide basic expenses for a family of 4, you have got to have a salary of $45,000. This suggests that almost 50% of our youngsters live in poverty. Half those kids receive no government assistance because their parents earned quite $22,000 that years. Consistent with the National Center for Youngsters in Poverty, that the poverty is that the single greatest threat to the children's well-being. Number 10. Erosion of national pride and identity. If per annum the Olympics were held, this probably wouldn't be a drag. This list is indicative of the very fact that America, like any nation, has a problem. The difficulty at hand is collective through among the people affected about the way to affect them. Unfortunately, most people tend to specialize in their self and not the entire. We see these problems as affecting them and not me and us. Once we hear that Americans' children are the fattest among Western nations, this doesn't sting. Once we learn that America's children lay educationally behind other industrialized nations, we don't cringe. I hope you guys liked today's video. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notification for a new video. Thanks.